Thanks for joining us in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, we're coming to you from the studio that they provide for us, and we feel this studio is second to none. We also feel like this guest is second to none. Dan Pitcher, highly regarded coach in the National Football League. I'm telling you, fans love him, players love him, fellow coaches love him. He is a bright football mind. I mean, he understands offense. He understands, like Paul Brown and Bill Walsh back in the day did, a few plays offensively, 5 plays in the passing game, 6 plays in the running game, but with a myriad of looks, a bunch of different personnel, formations, motion, window dressing, to make it look like you got 100 plays, with a lot of pressure on defensive players in that regard. Also, rosters change. Players come, players go. By draft, by free agency, whatever the case may be, they're sorting through that now. They're maybe, how do we tweak our offense with these new additions, people that have left? How does that change our offense? All that's going on right now. And, of course, the schedule. Tough division. One of the best in the National Football League. The NFL feels that way as well. A couple of division games are on national television. The Bengals have 4 games on national television, 3 more at 4:25, 7 games, 5 of those on the road, 2 at home. This team is in demand. There's a good reason. They have number 9 at quarterback. They have a great offensive football team. If they get that defense to middle of the road, they could be something to deal with. We appreciate you joining us in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And we know there are a lot of things you could be doing, but we also know the National Football League is a 365-day-a-year scenario. We're coming to you from our studios, and our studios are outstanding. They're one of one. So is our special guest. He's outstanding. He is one of one as well. And he is none other than offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, Coach Dan Pitcher. How you be, sir?
I'm good, Lap. Happy to be here with you. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, everything's going well. How about you? You got a little time to spend with family. I know you got beautiful family. You got a little bit of time to spend. You guys going to be traveling anywhere, Coach?
This summer we'll get on the road a little bit, go see family, and go on a little vacation down to Florida. But this time of year is nice. As an NFL coach, there's a lot of work to do, but we work regular people hours for the most part. So it's nice getting home for dinner every night and getting to be dad. So enjoying that for sure.
So, like you said, regular people hours. I mean, during the season. Are there 90-hour work weeks? I mean, are there crazy amount of time work weeks that you guys have to put in from time to time? Is it that ridiculous?
I mean, I don't know if I could put an exact number on it, but yeah. They're long days. To me that's not we don't do that just to say we work long days. I mean, to me, it's representative of the actual amount of work that is to be done, to put together a game plan, the way you want to put it together, and to make sure you've done the research that you needed to do and communicated with your staff and your players and put together all the materials for the players to reference. It's just, there's a lot that goes into it, and it does take a lot of time if you want to do it right. And, but the good thing here is, I don't think anybody feels like, they got to sit around and guard their desk. There's meaningful work to be done. The work is valued, and it informs the game plan. It informs how we coach our players. And so while there is a lot of work to be done during the season, I think we all know that getting into it, and it's work that we enjoy doing.
Roster building, Coach, is a again, 365 day a year job as well. There have been players that you've re-signed, some veteran players, extended contracts. You basically extend Joe Burrow with a big contract. Same with Jamar Chase. You got T. Higgins, who was in free agency. You get a deal done with the transition tag with T. Get a deal done there. It's pretty remarkable the amount of money that we're talking about. I mean, again, back in the day, way back in the Wayback Machine in the mid '70s, 1974, my rookie year, it was a much different dynamic. It was still like a big commitment, not just during the football season. It was a year-round deal. But today's football, I mean, there are no real off-season jobs for players, and it's all football all the time, which it should be, in my opinion, because man, it is so competitive. The game is so lucrative for everybody involved. It really is a phenomenon. I mean, just about everybody in the country has some sort of interest in what the National Football League is doing, not just during the season, but on a year-round basis, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most, it's the greatest professional sports league in the world, and certainly the most popular here in our country. And I think we all do what we do, most of us, because we love it, and we've loved it since we were little kids, and we're fortunate enough to make a living and a career out of something that we love and we're passionate about, and that for me scratches the competitive itch that I wake up every morning with. But we do recognize the interest that's out there, and how intensely interested our fans are, and that's important to us, and it goes on the list of reasons for why we do what we do, the sacrifices that we make, because we do recognize what it means to a lot of people, and it means a lot to us too. So we're fortunate to be in the seats we're in.
Mentioned it's roster building, roster construction, and Paul Brown back in the day, he said there's one truism that is about the National Football League. On a yearly basis, every roster will be different. It'll never be the same. There's going to be changes. There's going to be some people move on by their choice, by others' choice, whatever the case may be. Back then, of course, no free agency, all that sort of thing. You either waived or traded was the only way that you weren't returning to your respective football team. But you've got guys. We talked about veteran free agents that you've extended, transition tag guys that you signed. Talk about the guys that you were able to retain, and talk about the guys that you brought in from other teams to add to the mix. Tell us about what's going on with that aspect of roster building, Coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got definitely on our side of the ball for sure. We have a great deal of continuity, which is something that you strive for and you really love as a coach. Because you do invest a lot of time and energy into these players, but with the recognition that every year is going to be different, and there are going to be guys that move on, and there's going to be new guys that enter the fold, and that's just part of the job is making sure that you're incorporating those new skill sets and using them in a way that's going to help the team win. But for us this year, the nice thing is that we're going to look very similar on our side of the ball, and we've had a chance to add some guys. Add Lucas Patrick through free agency, who's a good veteran who's played a lot of football on the offensive line, who's wired exactly the way we want our guys to be wired. Is a leader, is tough, and will insert himself into the competition for one of those guard spots. And then we had a chance through the draft to bring in some guys that we think are really talented young players that will also have an opportunity to compete right away to contribute for us. But at the end of the day, the core of our group is back and will be here for the foreseeable future. I've got a chance to bring Samaje back as well. I failed to mention him. I know you and I have talked about him before, and just how we view Samaje and how important we think he is to us and where we want to go. So, good chance to bring a few new guys in, but really at the end of the day, it's about our core that's returning, and how do we capitalize on the growth that we were able to make last year and continue in the right direction.
You mentioned, Coach, that you've got the continuity and you have a scheme that works for your personnel. You want to retain that personnel as much as you possibly can. Sprinkle a few additions in here and there, but you've got people that fit what you're trying to get done schematically. Your scheme fits your players fit your scheme. That's always a great dynamic to have. At this point in the off season, how much, I'm not saying fiddling with the playbook, but how much dialogue goes on amongst the coaches with, now that you've got some additions that are going to be there when training camp opens, and maybe Samaje brings a little bit different mix to the backfield than you had before. Signing him, you had him before, what he can do. I mean, when you look at it, when you look at all the pieces that you've retained, the veteran players that you've retained, the veteran players from other teams that have come on board, how much does that affect what you do offensively, or do you try to kind of tweak your offense to fit their skill set? How does that all work, Coach?
I think it's a little bit of a chicken and egg discussion, but to me, our job is to make sure we're doing the right things to have success with the players that we have on the roster. So it's a player first mentality. We never want to get so enamored with or married to a style of play or a set of actual schematic plays that we say, come hell or high water, we are going to run this regardless of who the people are that we have. That just doesn't fit my philosophy of offensive football, and really of our job as coaches and as game planners. We have to make the best of what we have. Now, with that being said, I think it starts obviously with the quarterback, and then for us and how we operate, which is certainly not how everyone's able to operate. We have two elite receivers that we can feature both of their skill sets in different ways. And, so it's really, we're built unlike most other teams, but it's how we're built. And so that is going to inform how we are going to operate. And we're always going to try to accentuate our best player skill sets, and then use our role players in ways to support those guys and put them in position to do the things that they do well, all the while limiting the exposure to opportunities maybe to put them in spots and things that they don't do as well. So it all matters. And that's a long-winded answer to your question. But at the end of the day, I believe it's players before plays, and you got to set it up to support the guys that you have.
Players before plays. Love that. And love the way you were talking about, do things schematically that support the skill set of the players that you got to work with. I mean, Paul Brown back in 1970, even way before that. I mean, he was a brilliant offensive schematic coach, game planner, and he basically figured out what his players did best and built an offense to accentuate those skill sets. And his whole and Bill Walsh was the same way. Bill Walsh basically, was in the same exact mindset as Paul Brown, and not intentionally. I mean, Paul wasn't like beating on Bill Walsh with that type of philosophical presence every single day, but it just, they both had it. They both had the exact same way, exact same approach to it. And they really did a masterful job of creating offense to accentuate the skill set of their players at the highest possible level. And they did it in a way, and you're good with this as well. You have a few concepts that, are good, that you really like, and you'll get to them a bunch of different ways. Man, you'll formation it to death. You'll motion. You'll change. Strength of formation, different personnel groupings. I mean, Paul Brown and Bill Walsh were the masters of that. And we really had a few basic concepts in the running game and the passing game. But it looked like there were hundreds of them to defensive players, that had to recognize and make calls and adjust calls and all that because of everything I just talked about, how it was presented, and just didn't break the huddle, line up and run a few plays. Here's 4 runs. Can you stop it? Here's 5 passes. Can you stop these? I mean, we challenged them mentally with all the window dressing. Is that still conceptually something that you strive to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that fits exactly what we try to do. There's a million good football plays. There's no shortage of good football plays in the world. But as you know, it's the execution of the play that's going to determine its success or its failure. And if we expect our guys to execute at a high level, it would be foolish of us to just throw a million things that are different at them, let them practice it once, and then go into a game and expect them to execute it at a high level. That doesn't mean we don't search out new things and wrinkles and things that fit us, but I think the real talent in putting together an offense that you just alluded to is finding ways to invest reps and then have those reps, the value of those reps carry over week to week, season to season, because that's how you're going to get really good at something, is to do it over and over and over and over again, and to do it so many times that you have all the necessary adjustments and all the nuances that are required versus the different looks that defenses are going to give you. You have to invest the time, and it's just impossible to invest all the time you need in all the different things. So you find the few things you're good at, and then you do everything in your power to make those things look like a lot of different things to the defense. And then supplement that with little things that you discover here and there that might be a little bit different, but as long as your guys are veterans and they're capable, you can implement those things. But you always have to be wary of your volume and growing too big as an offense. So yeah, I mean, you outlaid it perfectly. That's what we try to do, and we hope we do a good job of it.
You definitely do. There's no question about that. And this time of year, how many meetings do you have as a coaching staff with the focus on this type of thing that we're talking about, schematics that you like, concepts that you like, and making sure that you don't stray too far from things that have worked, and you want to, keep a core group of those. But how many, when you mentioned, maybe sprinkle in a couple of things here and there, when do those discussions take place? And do they take place as a coaching staff? Do you involve, Joe and some other players offensively? Is it strictly with the coaching staff? How often do you meet with Joe and the other quarterbacks, for example? I mean, what's it like this time of year in the off season with respect to those type of meetings?
Well, I would say a lot of that work, a lot of those discussions with the coaching staff have taken place already. That's a lot of kind of the off-season league study that goes on. And then it's really kind of my job to ultimately decide, obviously with Zach as the final yay or nay, what do we want to invest our time in? And I do a lot of, one-on-one or small group interaction with our coaches in the areas that they specialize in. They're all assigned different parts of the league to study at the beginning of the off season, to come up with a plan, to come up with some things that they think might help us, and then kind of sell me on it. That's part of the process is, okay, do these ideas pass multiple levels of scrutiny? And if they do, then they're probably things that are worth investing in. And so there's a lot of one-on-one or small group discussion that goes on. And then I kind of have to pull it all together and put an install schedule together so that the pieces fit together and it makes sense to our players as we teach it to them and we start to install it to them. With regard to how much input our players have, I think there are certain players that have significant input. Our players are not responsible for coming up with ideas for our offense and how we want to play offensive football. That's what this coaching staff was hired to do. But we absolutely seek out our players' feedback because they're the ones that have to go do it. And they're the ones that are going to run into the actual practice of the play, the execution of the play, things will come up that we're going to need their feedback on. And I absolutely seek that out, especially from guys who have played a lot of football and who are able to kind of do the critical thinking that we do as coaches every day, because that's the biggest part of the process. You got to weigh everything, the pros and the cons. Is this worth it? Because like we just talked about, there's a million good ideas, but you got to be a critical thinker and be able to decide what are the ones that make sense for you. So yeah, we do seek the input of our players, and we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the best path forward.
Not only are there changes from a player standpoint, there are always, not always, but there are times when there's changes in the coaching staff. And there was a change in your offensive line. You've got a couple of new offensive line coaches, offensive line coach and assistant offensive line coach that both come from the New England Patriots. They've been together for a while. They've been in the league for a bit. They might have some different ideas, some different approach to things in ways from a blocking schemes, techniques, and that sort of thing than in the past. What have those meetings been like with the new members, new additions to your coaching staff?
Yeah, Scott and Mike have been great. We knew when we went through the interview process, talking to Scott, that he was a guy we were really interested in bringing into the building. And, they both have a wealth of experience. They were together for 1 year in New England, but they've been, at different stops in the NFL and have been exposed to different, thoughts and ways of offensive football. And, at the end of the day, they're really smart, hardworking guys that understand football, love football, and want to do everything they can to help our team win. And we've talked about Scott before. Scott's a tremendous teacher. Scott's a technician. Scott is a hands-on instructor. And I think our players, in the short time that they've had to spend with him, are really responding positively to his style of instruction. So we're fortunate to have those guys, and they fit right into what I believe is already a strong culture of our coaching staff. And so, I think they're going to help us win football games in the fall. So just glad that we get a chance to work with them.
No doubt about that. I agree. I think they're going to be significant contributors to the cause for sure. When you bring in coaches, new coaches, particularly up front with the offensive line, I mean, I know there's a language in offensive line play. It's your own language as such, and talking about identification, what you call defenses, what you call blocking patterns, schematics, and all that sort of thing. And the languages can be different. How different is it for them with respect to adjusting potentially to the language that you guys use offensively?
I mean, there's been some stuff, different calls that we may use, or different approaches that we may have to picking up certain pressure fronts, or how we might block a certain run scheme. I mean, that's, those things are going to happen. I think there's a relative amount of carryover, Scott's time with Coach Callahan in Cleveland, and obviously Brian being here, and Frank had spent time with Bill in the past. And, so there's definitely some things that are similar to, we're not running a new offense for our offensive linemen. I mean, we're running the same offense, and Scott and Mike have just done a great job of really integrating within that. And then pointing out where there's maybe some things that they've done differently in the past, and we're open to that. We absolutely have an open mind. Listen, we need to grow and we need to get better. We've been watching football in January from our couches 2 years in a row, and that's not good enough. And so if anybody has an idea that we brought into this building that we trust and we respect, we're going to listen to it. And certainly they've come with good ideas, and some will incorporate, some maybe will continue to do things that we've done in the past. But that's all part of the process. It's healthy, and it's been good.
Scott and Mike bring a different set of tools in the toolbox for the offensive lineman to use. I mean, Scott is a jiu-jitsu black belt champion. I mean, the guy, mixed martial arts, he knows what's going on there in terms of utilizing your body and the leverage that your body can utilize, I guess, generate and you can utilize to your advantage. And he's big on the long arm kind of thing, more parallel feet than staggered, and that lengthens an arm and gives you more leverage. And his hand placement may not be totally parallel; they may be offset, and they're striking different parts, but all inside the framework of the body and all the kinds of things that that are advantageous and good to have in a toolbox. When you listen to these guys and when you watch tape of what they're teaching, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's, it goes back to it fits my philosophy of empowering the player, giving him tools, and then trusting that the player is going to put the work in to refine those tools and understand when to deploy them and why they're being deployed. And, because we're coaches, we love to try to solve every problem, during the week and during the off season and try to control as many variables as we can possibly control. But the reality is there's only so much we can do. And our players have to be critical thinking, intelligent, tough, resilient guys that are able to solve their own problems and to solve them in real time. And I think, just listening to Scott and how he instructs that room and just his philosophy of how he wants his guys to play, I think there's a really good marriage there with that philosophy. And I think players respond to that. I think players, our guys certainly have responded to it. Now, listen, it's May. We haven't lined up across from anybody, and there's a lot of hard, tough football to be played, and there's going to be some times where it's going to look ugly, and we're going to have to bounce back from those times. So talk is cheap right now, but I feel good about the trajectory of that room, and I think we'll see some improvement there, and it's going to help us be a better football team.
November 23rd, play the New England Patriots in Cincinnati. You mentioned that your offensive line coaches were most recently with the New England Patriots. Is there an advantage there, Coach, or does it offset? Their defensive coaches know things about these offensive line coaches and their mindsets and the way they approach things, and obviously they know your line coaches know what the defenses of the New England Patriots like to do and how they like to do it. Is there a wash? Is there an advantage?
It's a case-by-case basis. I mean, there's so much movement. In that particular instance, I mean, there was almost complete turnover in the New England building. So I don't know that there's going to be much garnered from that. The thing that we always try to do when we bring new people in is get a sense for how they viewed us when they had to get ready to play us. And sometimes that's crossover value. There might be value for, Scott and Mike to talk to Al and see how, now again, obviously there's different there because Al wasn't here last year. You know what I mean? So if there's a pathway to garnering information that's going to help you win that makes sense, obviously we're going to try to go down that road. And
Sure.
It just depends on what coaches are left, what they're doing. Sometimes there's connections that you don't even think to make. A guy worked with a guy who's now in another place, and we know that now that guy's responsible for this part of the game plan. So, hey, let's be ready. We know he likes to do A, B, or C, and then you might not even make that connection. It might be a, 2 or 3 times removed type deal, but it's a small world, our coaching world, and we try to use whatever information we have to our advantage.
Let's talk about the rest of the schedule, Coach, that's come out. We talked about the Patriots game on November 23rd, but you look at it, it seems like every year there are some good things and there's some not so good things, but overall, I think there's an equitable balance. I guess it's probably a fair schedule. I know the league takes great pains in trying to be that way. Not given the bad end of things to teams on a regular basis, making sure that they're fair and equitable with the way they schedule their football seasons. 17 games, nine of them are home, 8 of them are away with that odd number. Before the bye week, you get 5 home games, 4 away, and after the bye week, 4 home games, 4 away. So it's not imbalanced, in any direction there. You do have your share of nationally televised games. You've got the Broncos September 29th on Monday Night Football. You've got the Steelers October 16th on Thursday Night Football. You've also got the Ravens on Thursday night, November 27th, and that is on Thursday Night Football. And then on December 21st, down at Miami against the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. So you've got 4 nationally televised games. 3 of them are on the road, 1 at home. 3 games you kick off at 4:25 in the day, 2 on the road, 1 at home. So 7 games that aren't 1 o'clock kicks. The big thing there to me is 2 at home, 5 on the road. And you think, I don't know how fair that is. But honestly, I think the league likes the Bengals. I think the league wants people to see the Cincinnati Bengals. 7 times you're going to be on some sort of a non-1 o'clock kickoff. Again, I'm not sure how fair 5 of those on the road is, but give me your knee-jerk reaction to what you've seen out of the schedule. You probably haven't had a whole lot of time to dive in and digest it, but what's your first take on it?
Well, I wish I could give you a well thought out, eloquent synopsis of the schedule. The reality is, my viewpoint has really always been, it doesn't really matter.
It is what it is.
We know who we're playing. We've known who we're playing for a really long time. The only thing I ever really catches my eye are who our early opponents are, because those are the teams that we can put the work in now and throughout the summer, because you're not going to have there's not going to be any real football games played between now and week 1. There's going to be 1 real football game played between now and week 2. And so the information that's going to inform how you develop your plan against those teams, you can really do a lot of that work, over the next couple of months. So from my standpoint, that's what matters to me when the schedule comes out. Teams change every year. The league changes every year. There's going to be a team that's great in week 3 that stinks in week 10. There's going to be a team that stinks in week 3 that's great by week 14. So you don't know. And it doesn't, for me, the mental exercise and getting worried or upset over this or that, there's just enough going on in my life that I don't really, have too much concern over it. But
lose sleep over it, right, Coach?
I don't lose much sleep over it. No.
I hear that. To your point, let's talk about the early part of the schedule. 2 out of the first 3 are on the road. 3 out of the first 4 are on the road. 4 out of the first 6 are on the road. You mentioned in the early stage your opener at Cleveland. The 10th time in franchise history you've opened the season against the Cleveland Browns. Makes sense. Paul Brown, historical connection to Cleveland, obviously. And for the second time in 3 years, you open and close with the Cleveland Browns. And you play Cleveland in the opener. And then you've got the Steelers on that Thursday night game. You basically right away get an exposure to the division. I think the league feels like the AFC North is a very good division. I think they want to get that division as much national exposure as they possibly can, and it makes a lot of sense. What's your take on all that, Coach?
No, I think it is a good division. We know playing in it, you got teams that have a lot of coaching continuity, right? That tends to lend itself to sustained success to some degree. Otherwise, changes usually happen. So you have veteran head coaches in all 4 buildings that have had significant success at different stages of their careers in those buildings. And it's a tough physical brand of football. It's it's a brand, it's football that's going to be affected by the elements, especially as the season gets further along. There's talented players and on all those teams. So yeah, it makes sense to me that, those teams would be featured from a league standpoint. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to say that there was a weak link in our division, but I don't think that that's true.
I agree with that 100,000%, sir. There are some interesting stretches in the schedule. 4 games in a row here, September 29th at the Broncos on Monday Night Football. Then you got the Lions, a damn good football team, in Cincinnati at 4:25. You have to go to Green Bay to play the Packers the very next week at 4:25. And then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night in Cincinnati. That's a heck of a month of football right there. I mean, you have two nationally televised games, 2 games kicking off at 4:25, 4 games in a row that you're not sniffing, a 1 p.m. kickoff. Is that something that you have to handle differently, or you still prepare the same way for games no matter when they kick off?
I mean, we're going to put our process is our process.
Right.
It might change the last 24 hours leading up to the game, what you do the day of the game, if it's a night game. But we're creatures of habit, man. We got our boxes that we need to check in preparation. We're going to do it every single week. We're not going to cut corners. We're not going to, the short weeks are hard on you, but we've been doing this all long enough that we know what we have to do to have success in a short week. And, so we just tell us where to go and when they kick off, and we'll be ready.
Another 4-game stretch that's of interest to me, November 27th, Thursday night at the Ravens. And then on December 7th, you play Buffalo at 4:25. So you have a long week after that Thursday night, that brutal, contest against the Ravens. That'll be physically and mentally demanding. You have a long week. And then you play the Ravens again after Buffalo at 4:25. And then you finish up with the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. So again, in a 4-week stretch, 2 nationally televised games. I guess, again, you mentioned it, Coach. It's like it's not going to change the way you approach things, but I guess maybe you just got to make sure the guys are getting proper rest. Their diet has to be important because, if you're a good football team like the Bengals are, and you're in demand, and you're kicking off on Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, 4:25 on Sunday. I mean, your weeks are a little bit different. And I remember I used to like to get into a rhythm, of getting my body and mind right, both on the practice field and everything else off the practice field, including eating habits and sleep. Make sure you get enough sleep and all that sort of thing. Players have to stay on top of that stuff, don't they?
It's part of being a pro, and I think when you have elite competitors that play their best when the lights are the brightest, then go ahead, put us on prime time. Doesn't matter. We're happy to bear that burden if that's how you want to look at it. But right. I think we kind of look at it a little bit differently. It's another opportunity for us to show the world what we can do, and our great players tend to show up in those spots. So we'll be ready.
And finally, Coach, 7 of the last 11 games on the schedule are at home. 7 of 11. I mean, in my mind, this football team is one that has to be included when you talk playoff possibilities. I mean, it's just a hell of a roster, hell of a football team, coaching staff. I mean, it's all top shelf. To have 7 of your 11 games at home, the last 11, 7 of them are at home. If I'm a player, I'm looking at that as a plus. I mean, you always want to go out there and defend your home territory, and there's no givens in the National Football League. We talk about how travel can be a challenge, and pros have to take care of their bodies and all that. What do you think about 7 of 11 as you're trying to make that final playoff push being at home? Is that a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a pretty boring guest here for your last 10 minutes on these schedule questions. I apologize.
No problem.
You know,
I like it, Coach.
we I'll say this: we love playing in front of our home fans. We believe this is a hard environment for opponents to come into. The energy and the excitement, the buzz that you feel for these, in these all games, but especially in these games later in the year, in games that we know are meaningful when it comes to getting to where we want to go. It absolutely is an advantage playing in front of our home crowd, and they make things hard on the opponent. And so the fact that we're going to have those opportunities over the second half of the season to do that, we look forward to those, and we know our fans are going to show up, and we're going to put ourselves in a spot as a team to where we make sure those games are meaningful, and it's going to help us get to where we want to go.
I know Bengal Jim's ready to rock and roll. He's ready to travel. He's ready to put some more miles on his vehicle, and there's a whole bunch of fans that travel with him. So that's an enjoyable part of it for me. I get a kick out of when we're on the road and the team comes down the stairs from the meeting rooms on like the third floor down to the second or the first, or the second floor down to the first, and all these the fans and the young fans are with their older brothers, their dads, whatever, and their mouths are just like wide open, like, oh, wow, there's Joe Burrow. Oh, wow, look, there's Coach Dan Pitcher. I mean, it's amazing how big an effect that you have as professional athletes on these people, particularly these young people. It's something you just can't take for granted, right, Coach?
No, I mean, I was that kid once. A lot of us were, right? It's where the love of the game is born.
Yep.
And, it's part of that stays with us, through this whole deal. So absolutely. We appreciate all those, fans, young and old. Big part of why we do it. So Houday, go Bengals, and let's go get it done.
Real quick, Coach, who was the player that you were like, wow, when you met him, when you were a young kid?
Oh, man. My dad and I used to collect football cards, baseball cards is kind of our thing that we did, and so I would send them out in the mail, asking for autographs. And, so that was cool, meeting somebody in person.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I grew up in central New York, western New York. So, we were Bills fans growing up. And
yep.
I remember going down and shaking, Ted Washington was a nose tackle for the Bills in the
big man.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was probably, 11 years old. I remember shaking his hand after a game and feeling like his hand went up to my elbow. It's just it's those little things that, that for whatever reason, that thing, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. So you got to remember that we're fortunate, and we get a chance to have, just through a very simple human interaction, you can leave a lasting memory with a young kid. So that's awesome, and look forward to continuing to do those things.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that, Coach. I'm telling you, young people are so impressionable, and when you can leave a very positive impression, nothing better. I love your story about that big old marker, that big old hand of Ted Washington. That's awesome. Appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, you got it, Lap.
Have the best day you ever had. Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off-season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please, do me a favor. Subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.